Lifted van siding. I think it's a Weldtec. I could see the bent I-beams. It's a Weldtec. I know my vans. What size tires does this guy have? He's gonna come out of his van right now. Say, what are you doing to my van? Just like your van, okay? 285, 70, 17. The standard 32s. Nice. Lifted van siding. Is this the same one I saw at Korean barbecue? I think it is. It has the Weldtec lift on it. Same van. This is what I told Matthew. Don't listen to a bunch of dudes on the forums that don't even have a lift kit. Weldtec and Action Van Suspension, they make nice basic lift kits. Nothing high end. This isn't a long travel suspension. If you're a fan of Weldtec and you like their style of lift kits, like I said, I'm not going to talk you out of getting one. But I told Matthew, $2,000 is a big price difference. And if $2,000 is going to get your foot in the door and you could lift your van and you're going to enjoy your van a lot more, that's what it's all about. This is a Ford Ranger lift kit, basic lift kit. Look at that price, $1,000 for a Ford Ranger. I'm not connected to the internet right now, but let's see if this picture will pull up. There you go. Ford Ranger. Nice vehicle. This is the best example I could give you guys. So 6-inch lift kit, $1,000. This is what a long travel suspension is going to cost you. $8,179 for a long travel suspension. I have a buddy with the Lamborghini Gallardo. More on him later. But he also drives a lifted van. You know what's funny about lifted vans? They actually have really crappy driving dynamics, but we still drive them. Watch this. Nothing's happening. It's like, you know, when a little kid pretends they're driving and they move the steering wheel all crazy. That's a van. Zero driving dynamics, but we still like driving lifted vans. Even someone with the Lamborghini Gallardo. Yeah, V10, like a Gallardo. Yeah, V10, like a F650. Lifted van looks good, even next to a big boy truck. Some V10 in a van action. I always have to do this for my friends wanting a lift. Even though these have horrible driving dynamics, they're just so much fun to drive. I'm a car enthusiast that just happens to really like vans. So this is my second van build. I had to get the V10 the second time around. My friend with the Gallardo, you know what lift kit company he went with? Action Van Suspension. I said it before and I'll say it again. If you want a Weldtec lift kit on your van, I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. If you take your van to Weldtec, the install price for their 5-inch lift kit is going to run you about $5,200. If you go to Action Van Suspension, $3,500. So even someone who could afford a Lamborghini Gallardo wants to save $1,700. It makes sense, right? Someone with money doesn't have money because they needlessly spend. Shout out to my buddy Matthew. I believe he's in Michigan, and he's the youngest lifted van fan that I know of. He's 21. So is there anyone younger than Matthew who's a lifted van fanatic? Matthew's going with Action Van Suspension. He paid $2,800 shipped. Weldtec would have been $4,700 shipped. So almost a $2,000 price difference. He asked me a lot of questions about Weldtec versus Action Van. And like I said, if you want a Weldtec lift kit, I'm not going to talk you out of it. But I told him the main thing about his Class B is that you want to retain a sway bar. I'm not a fan of how Weldtec removes the sway bar. I'm not going to say the van feels dangerous. There's a little bit of wandering when it's a really windy day, but I'm not a fan of that. And one of my plans with this van is to get a sway bar. I'm going to go to Action Van Suspension, get a sway bar installed. So this is what I told him. You don't want a sway bar deleted on your Class B. I told him, look at Weldtec's lift kits. So on their standard van lift kits, they remove the sway bar. If you go with the Class B lift kit, like for Chinooks, they recommend a sway bar and they want to charge you $700 to re-add a sway bar. But when you look at their RV lift kits, a sway bar is included. So I'm not a fan of how Weldtec does that. And then he told me that makes a lot of sense because whoever owned his Class B previously added a rear sway bar. So I told him, yeah, with the Class B, man, you want all the stability you could get. Like I said, this van doesn't feel unsafe without a sway bar, but I'm not a fan of it not having a sway bar because on extremely windy days, I could feel the van wandering a little bit. So that's one of the future mods that I want, just re-add a sway bar. My friend with the Gallardo actually went through the same thing. So Matthew was telling me that a bunch of people with no lift kits were telling him Weldtec is the only way to go. Same with my friend with the Gallardo. He said a bunch of people with no lift kits were telling him, oh, Weldtec's the only way to go. And here's another example I gave Matthew. So this is a Ford Ranger lift kit, basic lift kit. Look at that price, $1,000 for a Ford Ranger. I'm not connected to the internet right now, but let's see if this picture will pull up. There you go, Ford Ranger, nice vehicle. This is the best example I could give you guys. So 6-inch lift kit, $1,000. This is what a long travel suspension is going to cost you. $8,179 for a long travel suspension. This is what I told Matthew. Don't listen to a bunch of dudes on the forums that don't even have a lift kit. Weldtec and Action Van Suspension, they make nice basic lift kits, nothing high end. This isn't a long travel suspension. If you're a fan of Weldtec and you like their style of lift kits, like I said, I'm not going to talk you out of getting one. But I told Matthew, $2,000 is a big price difference, and if $2,000 is going to get your foot in the door and you could lift your van and you're going to enjoy your van a lot more, that's what it's all about. And I'm saving it for another video. I actually think Action Van has the edge over Weldtec in certain aspects, one of them being is retaining the sway bar. These things are shaped like bricks. You don't want something shaped like a brick to be unstable. You want this thing to be as stable as possible. And what happens when you lift your van? You're making it a little bit more unstable. Shout out to Ryan. He makes these aluminum style side ladders for half the price. So I gave him a challenge. I told him, if you could make a similar style light bar to this one, you'll have the market all to yourself. And you know what he said? He said, challenge accepted. Here's Ryan's Instagram. I'll pin it in the comment section. He's about to get a lift kit for his van. He was going to go 4-wheel drive conversion, and he sees all the fun we're having with our 2-wheel drive lifted vans. So he's about to go 2-wheel drive lifted instead. Get it done. Get in on the fun. So support talented people like this. Let's get him some lift kit funds. So here's another customer of his with a side ladder. Here's the challenge accepted front light bar. He's about to put the finishing touches on it. Shout out to Sebastian. He got one of Ryan's side ladders. But we need people like him in the E-series aftermarket industry. Jeff, I know my buddy Jeff wants one of these, so check it out, Jeff. He's about to finish this up. Sebastian again, and there's the challenge accepted front light bar. So get a hold of this guy. And like I said, he's about to join in on the fun. I mean, he has his own ladder and light bar. He already has some sick add-ons on his van. The lift kit's gonna be the finishing touch. Here's another friend of mine, local friend, Arthur Nava. If you want a Harley Davidson, get in touch with Arthur Nava. But he's about to get a lift kit for his van. I believe he's gonna go with the Action Van Ultimate kit. So I would like to see some Ultimate kits out there. Not even a Ford Excursion can match up with the room that you have in a full-size van. Just small enough to go off-roading. Way more room than any SUV. perfect camping rig. See, this is a real house on wheels, but this right here is all you need. Aux locker. Airing down your tires and having a locker transforms these vans. Once I get the funds, I'm gonna Frankenstein my lift kit. So like I said, I'm gonna go to Action Van and get a sway bar added to my van. I'm also not a fan of how Weldtec uses Ford Bronco lift coils. Ford Broncos weigh 4,500 pounds. These vans weigh 55 to 6,500, and my van weighs 6,500. I got it weighed. I really want the Action Van Suspension Ultimate Radius Arm, so I'll have an Action Van Ultimate Radius Arm. I'll give one of my friends a good price on this Weldtec Radius Arm, and I'll give one of my friends a good price on these Bronco coils. But I want Action Van coils, Ultimate Radius Arm, and a sway bar. And I'll just keep the bent I-beams. So it's going to be Weldtec style bent I-beams with Action Van parts. Oh, and the reason I want to change the coils is because Fox shocks are good for about 30 to 50,000 miles. I got 40,000 miles on these. You could rebuild them, but I figure I'm gonna need a rebuild or new shock soon. So when I do that, I might as well get some Action Van coils. I'll probably go with Bilstein 5100 since those last a lot longer than Fox shocks. So the lesson of the day is, even someone who could afford a Lamborghini Gallardo wants to save $1,700 on a lift kit. And what's up with all these people on forums with no lift kit giving people lift kit advice? That's like a virgin telling you how to treat your woman in the bedroom.